It's
Oh,
wait,
he's
he's
here.
in.
He's here.
Sorry, everyone. I kind of forgot. I just woke up late. Sorry.
Adults survey in 2011, before the country's economic showdown grabbed headlines, prioritizing protecting the environment, even at the risk of curbing economic growth. And even if China's economic troubles worsen, residents' attitudes could change too. And residents live in urban areas, the hub of much of China's industrial activity, however, are significantly less satisfied than their rural counterparts with these efforts, as well as the quality of the air and water where they live, with a good reason. The World Health Organization finds air pollution in Shanghai and Beijing and is double or even triple the severity it is in London or Los Angeles. Further, China's Ministry of Environmental Protection finds groundwater at 57% of its monitoring sites in cities is polluted or extremely polluted. And it says critically, the enforcement of the series of policies and regulations on environmental protection that the central government has issued is now more stringent than it has ever been. This round of enforcement applies nationwide with the focus on the regions most affected by pollution. North China, particularly the region around Beijing and Tianjin, China's most heavily polluted area, is the main target. And the environmental and NDRC in March, the key element for this act, it includes reducing energy consumption, enforcing striker waste discharge permit, implementing tougher control on violate organic compounds VOC emissions, eliminating redundant capacity supply side correction, tightly scrutinizing environmental impact and energy saving evaluations for any new project prior to project approval, pollution control, targeting aluminum, coal, coking, steel, construction materials, carbide, and ammonia sectors. And for contention to which is the negative impacts from environmental issues, written by Lindsay Maisland in 2021. It says that China's environmental crisis, the result of decades of rapid industrialization, not only threatens the health and livelihoods of the country's 1.4 billion people, but also the global fight against climate change. As the world's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in recent years, China suffers from notoriously bad air pollution. Its carbon-intense industries have caused additional environmental challenges, including water scarcity and soil contamination. China's economic rise, national gross domestic product (GDP), grew 10% on average each year for more than a decade, has greatly accelerated its emissions. In the past 10 years, China has emitted more greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide per year than any other country in the world. It also says that in light of the increasingly serious problem of pollution, health, environmental pollution, the decision of the State Council on implementing scientific viewpoint of the development and strengthening environmental protection in December 2005 explicitly included pollution, health, environmental protection in the assessment system of leadership teams and leading cadres. It also made the assessment a basis for the selection and appointment of leaders, as well as a basis for their rewards and punishments.
That's right.
In
I
May,
think
Mhm.
the time's up.
Okay.
So one thing I'd recommend is like you had some really good points in your second contention about the actual effects of climate change, right?
Yeah.
So I think like you should definitely kind of cut your first contention. So it's like because by the time you got into your second contention, you only had like a minute and 15 seconds left. Ideally, you want first contention 3 minutes and then second contention 3 minutes. And I'm sure you had a lot like more good things to say because I think your second contention, from what I've heard, was stronger. Um, okay, so Rityana was the one who volunteered to do the negative, right? So now it's time for a 3-minute cross-examination. So you can ask him any questions you want. Like if you wanna,
Oh,
yeah. Or do you have anything to ask him? So like what you should have done is you should probably like tracked all his points and whatever contentions he's made. So every time he goes onto a new card, you write the author's name and then like whatever dash dash dash, you just put the points down under the larger contention. That's flowing, but if not, I can ask him a couple of questions.
oh yeah, you could ask him.
This will be good practice, okay? Okay, Yashpit, in the status quo or in the current scenario of the world, is China prioritizing their economy or their environment?
Currently, the people of China are prioritizing the environment, but except the government is prioritizing the economy because of the green tech that they have.
Okay, so if they're prioritizing the economy because of their green tech, what is the point of suddenly transitioning to environmental protection when you already have a growing green tech sector and all these other new technologies that help the environment?
Because if they continue prioritizing green tech, then by the time that they finish working with all the green tech, the environment would be in such a bad condition that the green tech wouldn't help at all.
Okay, so then what is the alternative there? So if you prioritize environmental protection, what are you going to do without green tech and these other technologies that help the environment?
Because when they prioritize the environmental issues, they could also it would also help them with the what is it called? The good things that come from the environment would help them continue working on the economy if their environment is already good.
So what are those good things that would help? Like, what are the good things that if the environment improved would help their economy? What are those things?
Well, first of all, people wouldn't suffer from water damages and like pollution in the air. So first of all, they would have more healthy people, which would help them work on the green tech more if they have more healthy people than people that are dying.
Okay. So if they're like suddenly you decrease the amount of green technologies, then what is the alternative plan in order to help the environment?
Well, if they suddenly decrease the green tech, then and if they start working on the the environment, then what is it called? They wouldn't have to worry much about the green tech because if they already help the environment, they might be behind a little bit in the economy. But since they've been working on the economy for so long, they've already been ahead in the economy and behind in the environment. So it wouldn't make much of a change.
Okay, so it wouldn't make much of a change. So what you're telling
Much of
me,
a change for going back in economy. Not for the environment, it would make a good change, like a great change.
okay, so is protecting the environment temporary then? Because that's what you're inferring, right? They're only going to do this for a certain amount of time before they go back to prioritizing the economy.
Well, when I mean I don't mean like purely temporary. I mean until they realize that until like prioritizing the the environment helps them in a way that if they stop prioritizing the environment and start working on their economy, the environment wouldn't start suddenly being bad again.
Okay, oh, that makes sense. But wouldn't you need green tech for that? That's my question. Okay, all right. So is Rithya here? Okay, so Rithya, so the first 4 minutes of the speech should be like usually, at least in a real debate, or like kind of like a more orthodox, like by the time debate. It should be the first 4 minutes of your speech should be like your own case, and you should spend 3 minutes responding to your opponent's case. But I'm not sure if you like flowed whatever, like kind of tracked whatever Yashmit said. So I
Yeah,
guess
I didn't flow.
that's fine. So just give your speech and then like whatever you get to, then if you get to only like 4 minutes, then that's good. But if you go over that, then you probably have to cut your case a little bit, if that makes sense. Or like take out something.
So then I have 4 minutes to talk?
You have 7 minutes, but I'll just see how far you get. And I'll just see.
Okay,
So
okay.
track whatever like contention she has, whatever points she makes within her cards, like whatever the authors are. Because sometimes if there's like a super sus author, like they work for like, I don't know, like the Environmental Protection Agency or something. And then they talk about like how the environment is degrading, like obviously. Shravani, do you have a question?
Yeah. So for the second website that Yashmith is using for his debate, I was thinking that could also be used for the negative side. So I put that in my
I don't
notes
know.
and I read like the same things that I put like the same things
Yeah,
that
that's fine as long as you twist it in a negative way. That's all you need. Like if you twist it in an affirmative way, it becomes affirmative evidence. If you twist it in a negative way, it becomes negative evidence. That's why it's good to create a like lot of flow within your cards and kind of like highlight the key parts and leave out some like other parts because sometimes you can like manipulate the evidence within an article to support either side. And that's like I guess the beauty of some articles. Or like even like just
I didn't I read exactly what he was reading, just like not the ending part.
Yeah, then you can keep it. There's no problem in that. As long as it makes a good argument.
Okay.
All right. So Ruthiana, we're just gonna give this one speech and then I'm gonna wrap up class. Okay.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. I'll start the time. Well, on your first word. Whenever you start, I'll start the time.
All right. So I strongly negate the resolution the People's Republic of China ought to prioritize environmental protection over economic growth. Moving on, the value for this debate is morality, and the value criterion is maximizing societal welfare. My first contention is economic growth. While protecting our environment is definitely a must, economic growth should be prioritized as it may be the answer to solving our environmental issues. According to Economic Thinking 15, economic growth and environmental protection go hand in hand. For example, when poor Taiwan was an environmental disaster, with polluting factories and the general havoc of an impoverished but fast expanding economy. However, once a certain level of wealth was achieved, more resources were spent to reduce pollution and clean up the environment. Economic development usually increases pollution and environmental degradation at first, but as prosperity increases with cleaner factories and rules or regulations to reduce pollution, ecosystems improve. China has already been doing an exceptional job of pursuing significant economic growth. While this does have an impact on China's environment, it does not mean that China should stop focusing on its economy. According to Paul 17, after nearly 2 decades of fast economic growth, China has achieved huge success in growing its economy and generating wealth for its citizens. The government has been addressing pollution issues for some time, but when economic growth and environmental protection cannot be achieved simultaneously, the former has superseded the latter. Chinese President Xi Jinping laid out his view to maintain economic growth while tackling pollution over the next 5 years. The use of both an economic lever and executive regulations to squeeze out environmentally unfriendly and small-scale capacity will continue to be the government's long-term approach. Nonetheless, it benefits the industry as a whole by reinforcing consistent environmental policy, phasing out outdated capacity, creating a fair market, and in the end, having long-term sustainable growth. So as stated, China has already made a plan to tackle its environmental problems. However, after the pandemic, China's economy has already declined. Why should China allow their economy to further deteriorate by prioritizing environmental protection over economic growth? According to Sorkin, etc., 23, when China finally lifted COVID restrictions last year, policymakers and companies hoped that it would help lift the global economy out of its post-pandemic doldrums. But data released on Monday shows that the hope for recovery in the world's second biggest economy still hasn't materialized, raising wider questions about global growth, the implications for international businesses, and China's dealings with the outside world. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told Bloomberg that China's slowdown could have a negative impact for other economies, including the United States. My second contention is improving people's lives. China's economy should still remain top priority. This resolution implies that we are debating what is best for China's national interest. Economic growth best fits this criterion. Thanks to China's rapid economic growth, the people of China have benefited tremendously, and millions of lives have been improved significantly. According to World Bank Group 23, since China began to open up and reform its economy in 1978, GDP growth has averaged over 9% a year, and more than 800 million people have lifted themselves out of poverty. China has eradicated extreme poverty. China's economic growth has benefited the people of China significantly, greatly improving their quality of life. In order to continue to benefit all these millions of people, China ought to prioritize economic growth over environmental protection. There are other benefits to China's rapid economic growth as well, such as the fact that economic growth has led China to become a powerful world leader. According to Kimberly 20, China's growth has reduced poverty. Only 3.3% of the population lives below the poverty line. Growth is making China a world economic leader. China is now the world's biggest producer of aluminum and steel, and Chinese tech companies quickly become market leaders. Additionally, if China were to stop prioritizing economic growth, how would it affect the people of China and their well-being? According to Kai, etc., 22, has China's vigorous economic growth raised its citizens' happiness? In both studies, Granger casual analysis suggested that the economic growth was the Granger cause of the increase in Chinese happiness. These findings indicate that the economic that the economic growth has raised happiness in China since 1990, particularly since 2001. As your evidence suggests, China's economic growth has greatly increased Chinese happiness. If economic growth were to stop being a priority, it may negatively impact the happiness and well-being of people in China. I'm done.
Okay, so you probably have to make your case like a minute smaller, I guess, and then what you basically have to do is, I guess, like track whatever your the affirmative says, and if you ever ask like a good question in cross examination, right? That kind of like, and then their response is kind of supporting the negative, then you just have to tie it in with something with your case and be like, in the cross examination, my opponent said this, and this, but this completely contradicts this, and this, right? So, I mean, yeah, I think that's like to be honest, if I put you in a real debate tournament, I think you do well just with that case. Like, I think you win at least half your rounds, which is like pretty impressive since like I don't know if you've ever done a debate round. But like your value criterion is always good. So that's the one thing I don't think Yashma had. So you usually need to have a value and value criterion. So the value is what you want to achieve at the end of the day, like what you're doing. And then your value criterion is in which measurement should we judge how well you've achieved your value. So I believe, if your value criterion is maximizing societal welfare, if you help the most amount of people, then you achieve morality. That's basically it. So that's what you kind of want to have a framework as. Your definitions, your card introductions, your taglines, everything was good. So that's all I have. So I think on both sides it was pretty good, but just remember to kind of like there's videos on YouTube on how to flow, and that's basically tracking your opponent's case. So just like kind of learn how to track your opponent's case, and then kind of you can even use the blocks you've made previously or something, and kind of like apply that to their case, and like that'll win you rounds. All right. I believe we're done with class. I mean, if anyone wants to have another class, or if they want to do a debate round, I can just like drop in. There's 2 people, and then I guess you guys can have a debate round. So if there's anyone who wants to have a debate round, just like
I don't have a debate round, but I found something cool. So like ChatGPT and Bard allows you to debate with them. So like they check how good your debate is.
oh, that's pretty interesting.
Like
Yeah.
they basically is an opponent for you.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. Um, so do you want to debate like in another class? I can make another class tomorrow if anyone wants to debate, and I can give like feedback. Like, cause
Are we going to be debating more on Saturday?
yeah, but also like if people want to debate like tomorrow or something, if they're free tomorrow sometime, I can like judge, I guess.
I'm tomorrow.
I guess just email me. I'll put my email in the chat.
Wait, do you know what time tomorrow?
Whatever time works for you, I should be available. I can just like make like a time for 30 minutes or like 45 minutes, and that's fine.
I put the link for Bard in the thing. It's free.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, so if anyone wants to have I guess another debate round sometime before Saturday, then they can email me. But if not, you guys can you guys are free to leave.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.